Well, welcome to AliNICOLE WOW. She writes and speaks it all. I am AliNICOLE WOW, also known as Majesty, and I am the author of over 300 publications on Amazon that serve different niche markets. I also host over 700 blogs that serve different industries as well, and the creator of several speaking products and speaking platforms. So today I actually want to talk about a subject that I've touched on in another segment, and it is in regards to communications metamorphosis. And I want to really focus more on the speaking metamorphosis. I touched on in another segment in terms of the importance for the communications metamorphosis as it relates to writing and speaking, but I was focusing more so on the writing aspect. So before I start sharing more about the speaking context, I just want to preface this talk, if you will, by resharing a little bit about the communications metamorphosis process. So I introduced within another segment about writing for caterpillars and speaking to butterflies, and emphasizing to writers and speakers, to communicators, that your journey is not the butterfly. And so often people make mistakes, writers and speakers, communicators make mistakes by thinking that the journey is the part that they're supposed to come and share with the world as now part of their new formation. And that actually is not what's supposed to be taking place. Actually, that way of being and expressing as a brand and as a mission, as a movement, as a business, has really been to the biggest detriment in terms of the behindness in evolution, based on what others have believed to be true about when they go through things, what they're supposed to be bringing to the world. So I know that this can be a little bit controversial in terms of, because it's been such a long-standing foundation, so to speak, that others have subscribed to. And certainly that aspect does have its place, but now it's time for it to be repositioned because of where we are in humanity's evolution and shifts that have to take place. And those who are communicating, whether it be through writing or speaking, have to be mindful about being in touch and in tune with the evolution and being responsible to help move it accordingly in the most accurate ways. So when we talk about writing for caterpillars and speaking to butterflies, so metaphorically, we know that when a caterpillar enters into a chrysalis, it breaks down and it becomes unformed because it's reforming into a new entity of expression. And then once a butterfly actually launches from the cocoon, launches from the chrysalis, it goes on to now live a butterfly life. So it's not going back to the caterpillars and then teaching them how to be butterflies, or even how to navigate the experience. But from a human perspective, which I have works around the human butterfly experience, the way that we serve from our journeys is through the content that we produce. And so when going through the metamorphosis, is something that I teach, even in branding and business metamorphosis, but in the writing and the speaking metamorphosis, is that the journey produces the content all right? And that content is what is shared to those who need the journey or need to develop through certain aspects of your journey. But when you come into your new formation and you're in more of that evolution, that butterfly, that's not your mission in terms of building a brand around what the journey was. No, it's about the evolution, and it's time for you to speak and be from the evolution and allow the journey products and things that you create to serve those who need that type of experience. But in your evolution, you have to serve more from the now vantage point. And most people think, well, I am doing that because here is what I have become. And now that I've become this, I'm living from this place. Yes and no. You're living from that place, but if you're regurgitating the actual journey that you emerged from and you are building more of a brand and a context around that, that's not going to be serving long term, and it actually keeps you from expanding and evolving and experiencing a higher level of your potential. Okay. And so for some, this may be a hard pill to swallow because they're like, well, the conditioning, like, no, I've gone through this journey. I'm supposed to be sharing this with people. And yes, you are. You are. But it is the way in which you are going to share this. Again, to me, when you, as you're going along, that's when you actually need to be kind of trying to either take people along with you. And sometimes it's not possible, but it is possible for some that they will come along, maybe not possible for others. The possibilities are there, but I guess whether people, jump onto and take that, take advantage of the opportunity, I should say, is not something you don't have control over that anyway, right? So I'm doing a little bit disruption here in terms of to the mindset so that you can expand, all right? Because I want you to reach your greater potential. And even though some people are being very successful with what they're doing by sharing their journeys and different things like that, we are in a new era. And quickly things are going to change, and that is not going to be what's going to be sustainable, because for most it already isn't. Okay. So when talking about speaking and communicating from your place of evolution, which is a continual journey, if you're new to becoming a butterfly, so to speak, meaning someone who's just come out of a certain situation and they've arrived in a sense at a certain destination that they've been preparing for, it's more like transitioning from the wilderness into the promised land. But the promised land was really just one territory because there was more for them to take. So if you're new and just really coming out, then within a certain season, yes, it's still okay for you to be actually serving and talking about the journey in which you emerged from. But my encouragement would be that's when you need to actually be creating your speaking products or host some type of experience where you can have individuals come in and partake of that. But you don't need to make that part of a signature work that you do. It could be something that you offer seasonal. But my encouragement would be to create products and create publications, and then build a platform. And that platform does not have to be on your main site. It can be on a platform like Tumblr, or so. It doesn't have to be on a main site. You really have to start separating and categorizing the journey versus the butterfly, okay? And you can do a YouTube series or so on what the journey was, but allow that to serve the people who actually need that, who you're actually prepared for now, or people who need to meet you in the now. people who need the butterfly expansion of you in the evolutionary format. That's where you want to, if you're going to start building your brand and your mission around that, it has to be around the evolution. And the evolution can take many forms. So it's not like in the old context where you've now identified yourself based on a journey that you've emerged from, or based on a current skill or so that you've mastered and really developed yourself in. And then you're locked into a framework, like a niche, so to speak, or that you're locked into that. And that's what people come to know you. In the evolution, it's different. You're able to be expressing yourself in a multifaceted type of way. So if you follow my branding, you know, it's very unconventional, very uninstitutionalized, that you can't narrow me down to just any one specific thing. Now, on different platforms, absolutely, I do have some core focuses, but as a whole, for me as a brand, you cannot lock me into any framework besides this is an individual who expresses herself, who shows up in many different statements. Like right now, the form that I am in is AliNICOLE WOW, she writes and speaks it all. I'm in that mode. And then there's the other elements of my branding. AliNICOLE WOW, she does it all, has it all. So I'm always a statement, an expression, and an experience, and ultimately an encounter. So there's different ways that I show up with no limitations. It's part of my continual evolution. So I can be flexible and be unformed. So that's why I can communicate on a variety of different levels to several different audiences about several different things, and write. Many of you have heard me mention that my life is my niche. I am in the business of being me, fully me. My life is my career. I study my life. I'm the journalist of my life. I come back and report from my life and broadcast, anchor from my life. But when you read publications of mine, different things, those are going to be things that, okay, they were part of the journey. But typically, I'm not going to be speaking and communicating from things I've evolved out of. I've had a season where I was focused on that, but no aspects and elements of my branding will be locked into that. We have to allow ourselves to always be in a state of continual morphing, which is part of the evolutionary edge. So let me address something, because I know some are probably like, wait a minute, this is completely just out of my understanding in terms of the conditioning. I often tell people, you are more than just one story. You're more than just one story. You don't ever want your identity to be locked into something that keeps you continuously going over the past. You want who you are to be someone who's always moving in the emerging, the emergence, the now that gives birth to the next now, and being able to speak and articulate, from that place. So when you speak to butterflies, let me get to that. There are individuals who don't need the journey that you've emerged out of. They're prepared to meet you at your point of evolution and then the emerging evolutionary edge of who you are. That's where they are. They won't need the same content or context from someone who actually needs things from your journey. Of course, you can reference your journey and you can definitely share stories. You can definitely talk about your journey. Just do not build a brand based on that journey, and don't make it a chronic intent to keep communicating from something that has already expired. So one of my challenges to speakers, for sure, is definitely examine your journey and see what needs to be expressed in written form from the journey. And then now, what is your new evolutionary speaking expression? And then publish works that will always keep you in the present. And I know some are thinking that's kind of hard to do. Well, let me give an example. So like I create VIP day intensive workspace planners. And I create those so people can actually do the VIP processes themselves. But also if someone purchases one of those and then they have an actual session with me, then, you know, we can use the publication and I can guide them through that, or we can use it just as a companion type of tool, if you will, during the process. But those types of works are going to be works that can be a continuation of my expansion and that person's expansion. But it's not going to have regurgitation of stories and different things like that. It's going to be pretty much focused on how we move a person from where they are to where they desire to be, and keep that energy moving forward and allow them to prepare and plan accordingly for their now and their next level. Hear me when I say this, their now and their next level. So when you are speaking and communicating, you want to come from that place of now and what's emerging. And so when you do reference previous things, it's going to be something of a more recent experience, which can be considered the past, more of a recent past occurrence, versus the journey that has caused you to arrive at a certain point. So again, I know this can be challenging for individuals, because now, well, what do I talk about? Where I don't know how to just come from now, because I've been so used to talking about my life and my works a certain way, which should be a huge wake-up call to let you know that then you're locked in an identity and you don't know who you are without that story, or you don't know who you are and what you can create beyond what you've been always creating. So I would say from your right now position, I would consider it old news. And I would find a way to create a publication or some type of publication series. You all know I'm very big on mini books, mini messenger books, books that are anywhere from 30 to 70 pages, maybe less than 100. But even if you want to publish something a little bit more extensive, I'd say in between 110 to 130 pages, maybe, still a short form type of book. And then create some type of product. I'm big on creating training bundles. So create a speaker's product in a training bundle, type of experience where maybe there's multiple topics or multiple elements or aspects to a particular topic, and allow that to be what's going to serve people who need that part of the journey. And now you enter into a new space of now, and what will come up for you in this powerful now, to start positioning yourself to speak and communicate from your evolution. So I'm going to invite speakers right now, and of course speakers and writers, so to speak, but again, focusing mainly on speakers. So I'm going to invite you to take a nice deep breath, please. And ask yourself, who have I become? Who am I now? And what wants to be expressed through me now? Whether it be through speaking, writing, just overall communications. What is my now point of expression? What is my now point of expression? Meaning, what is the identity that wants to come forth now? What is the new part of the experience, which contains journey that gives birth to another journey that gives birth to another journey? So what's the next journey that's emerging? What's birthing now? But you are in your not becoming, but who have you become? Because the becoming is continuing. So like for me, I have the 3 different formats that my brand through the media is expressed in. It's actually encompassed in the God energy or the Christ energy. And this is from a non-religious perspective. The was, the is, and is to come. So there's the wasness. But the is and is to come is where the evolutionary edge is. That's where the power is. There are people who need the wasness, but they get that, whether it's through a YouTube video, whether it's through an old blog, some old podcasts, old articles. There's a way for you to take those elements, make it into some type of cohesive expression, and allow it to be in a place that's not where your new energy is, all right? And so now, starting with what will seem like a clean slate or a new slate, a blank canvas, which is fine, because what you'll discover is that you'll be able to incorporate the whole of yourself, but it's going to be from a new vantage point. Things are just getting repositioned. And you are going to reach your greater potential by allowing yourself to expand in this way. And of course, if you need help with evolving your message and learning how to navigate this new way of your beingness in what I call your evolutionary butterfly expression, then there's information below. You can learn, more about that. But I know that I've shared quite a bit, and some of it may seem even jumbled around, which happens in the metamorphosis, because that's what most of you are in. You're in a metamorphosis, so you're really not formed at this point. You are transitioning from who you were, who you currently are, so to speak, and you're becoming. But as I was mentioning, who are you now? Because I do feel like in some cases you are formed, but you are not out of the cocoon, out of the chrysalis. And if you are, you haven't effectively launched and landed yourself. And that's why some of you have started to launch yourself. You've come to what feels like a completion, but yet there's no launching and landing. And that's because there's still elements of the old that you're going to have to look at with new eyes. And now allow yourself to catch up with your evolution so that you can communicate from that place. So over the next 2 weeks, I want you to really think about taking where you are now, as I was mentioning before, reflecting, reviewing, examining your journey up until this point, and starting to transition into this newer story, this newer trajectory of yourself that's going to communicate to the evolved, the butterflies, the ones who are already soaring, but they are ready to soar to new heights. And guess what? You're ready to take them to new heights. And you may feel like, wait a minute, they've been in the game longer than I have in doing this. Yes, but you have an evolutionary edge in your development that they desire. Special, unique gift. And you're here to bring a message to them to take them to the next level. It's time for you to be in the higher tribe, beyond the metamorphosis, actually, beyond the cocoon, and in flight with new heights. So I could go on and on about this, but I will bring this to a close. But my empowerment is that you really do start to speak and be the evolution, and allow this phase of the evolution to give birth to another. And then soon you see, oh, this became part of a journey too. And now guess what? You write about that. You create a product about that. And then you've moved on into the newer, greater, expanded works. Let me just say this, never again will you be locked into just one signature talk, one signature work, one signature X, Y, and Z. It is about the signature you of a multifaceted expression. And that's a whole nother training. All right. Thank you for listening. And I look forward to bringing you more expansion soon, and so that you can communicate from your evolution on all levels. All right. And then you can evergreen your evolution and allow those 3 different levels of you, which there are more, but just those 3, the was, is, and is to come, to serve each person at the place where they are. And until next time, I want you to have a great day. Be blessed for sure. And I'll be back soon.